Alright guys, so now that we have everything installed on this actual machine for the virtual box, we're going to go ahead and download our first thing, which is going to be SmoothWall. That's going to be what we're going to use for a content filter. Now, SmoothWall is also a firewall, but I prefer using it just as a content filter. I just find it being a lot easier to manage for a content filter, and then the actual firewall device that we're going to be using is more robust, I found, and easier to use and configure. So what we're going to do, open up your web browser and go to smoothwall.org. It's going to pull up a web page here. You just want to use the open source community, download, and then from download you just want to scroll down here and you're going to see the 64-bit installation. Now I'm just taking into account that I loaded a 64-bit operating system on this machine, so you should have had a 64-bit. Like I said, any newer machine should run a 64-bit operating system without any issues. So we're going to go ahead and click on here. It's going to download. It's less than 300 megabytes, so it's a pretty small file. You want to save it, and it's going to kick off the download. I'm going to let this download run, and I'll come back as soon as it's done. Okay, so our download is done, as you can see here. And what we're going to do is open up VirtualBox. So from here, you're going to click on this little multi-tool button here. Type VI, pull up virtual. VirtualBox will show up here. Going to make a new one. I'm going to call it SmoothWall. Make it a Linux operating system. Tell it it's 64-bit. It's fine. 512, fine. Now, here's the thing, is that Linux needs just the bare minimum to actually run. You don't need to have this huge, robust system to run Linux. So 512 of memory is completely fine. If this was a Windows operating system, you'd be crazy to run 512, but you should be fine because it's just a content filter. This is going to be an 8 gig drive, and we're going to create a virtual drive. We're going to make it a VDI. Now, here's a big thing. You can do the dynamically allocate it or fix the size. Dynamically allocate means that when your machine is doing like the installation, it's going to start increasing the size with 8 gigs being the limit. So basically, let's say after the installation is done, it only needs 4 gigs of space. It'll probably take up only 4.5 gigs on your hard drive, but the system knows it can expand up to 8. That way, if you're kind of limited on space, you can use this to play around to keep your system a little bit cleaner. Fixed size just means it's going to make an 8 gig chunk right on your hard drive, and there's nothing you can do about it. So we're going to do dynamic. I'm calling it SmoothWall. Here's a little thing where you can move it back and forth if you want to give it more space or less space. But like I said, it's Linux. You don't need that much. Create, and you're done. Now, go ahead and click on this, and then you want to go to Settings. And then from Settings, we want to check some things here. First, we want to go to System. And under System, go to Acceleration. Make sure these things are ticked off here. Next thing, you want to click on Storage. From Storage, you want to click on the CD-ROM. Choose the disk, and you want to click on Downloads, and you'll see your SmoothWall installation ISO file. The ISO file is a compact file that has basically the entire operating system on it. It's the same thing you did with the thumb drive, but we're going to be doing it virtually. So when you did that thumb drive thing to create your Ubuntu machine, well, it's the exact same thing, except it's going to be virtual. So let's double click on that, and then after you double click on that, you're going to click on Network. Now, the network adapter is the biggest point of why we're doing this virtually. Right now, you only have one network card in your computer more than likely, and then you have one wireless adapter on your computer. But with being virtual, you can then spin off up to 4 virtual network cards on a single machine at a time. So if you didn't use a virtual box like this, you would literally have to have a computer with 2 network cards to do what we're about to do. But now you can just run as many virtual cards as you want, and your machine will just treat it as if any other machine on the network. It's not a big deal to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this a bridged adapter. And the reason for making a bridge adapter instead of a NATed adapter is that a NATed adapter would only be seen within its own virtual community, but the rest of the network can't see it. So let's go back to the schematic that I had earlier. If you remember, you had the modem that plugged into your router that then had the rest of the world behind it. Well, this computer that you have should be plugged right into the router. When you set this virtual NIC or virtual network card to bridge mode, it's then telling the router, this is actual machine, it's on the router, give me an actual IP address because I'm going to be working off of the router. So we're going to go ahead and tell it to put it into a bridged adapter. and then you're going to put on a second one, so check that box, and you also want it to be a bridged adapter. The reason for it is that the way the SmoothWall works is that you have one wall that's out there for the internet and one wall for the rest of the network, and information is going to flow through it. So much like a pipe, you have to have an entryway and an exit. If you don't, all the information is just going to stay in the SmoothWall and go absolutely nowhere. So now that we've done that, I'm going to hit OK, and then we're going to hit start. Now once you hit the start button, the SmoothWall the operating system is going to be opened up as far as the ISO file, and then it's going to be put right here on the screen. This screen here just lets you know that your mouse and click captures are going to be on the screen, and if you ever want to get your mouse back, you just hit Control and Alt on the opposite end of your keyboard and you should be fine. Anyway, so we're going to do SmoothWall Express install. Okay, and it's just going to run through a couple things here. These little pop-ups are just letting you know that your keyboard is being captured and your mouse clicker is here. Alright, next thing, we're going to hit OK to this. We're going to hit OK to this. This is saying that it's going to partition your hard drive. It's warning you, if you have any information on this hard drive, it's going to be erased. Now, this is the good thing. This is a virtual machine, so therefore you're formatting a virtual hard drive. Your Ubuntu machine will be untouched if you hit OK here. So hit OK. It's going to partition the drive. Once the partition of the drive happens, it's going to make the boot file system, it's going to make the root file system, it's going to make the log file system, then it's going to install the files. We're going to let this installation go through, and I'll just jump ahead after the installation is done. Alright, from here it says congratulations, your installation was successful. So you're just going to hit OK. You're going to tell it no because you're not trying to restore from an old version of SmoothWall, and you're going to select whatever keyboard is best for you. I'm going to use US QWERTY, and then you're going to select your time zone. From there, you're going to give it a name. This is a secondary SmoothWall for this course, so I'm just going to tell it that it's a SmoothWall 0, so it won't conflict with my current SmoothWall that I have on the network. Now, I cannot express this enough. You want this open, not half open and not closed, open. The reason why is that if you set it to half open or closed, then a lot of ports are going to be locked off. This is only a content filter. It's not going to be your firewall, so you want to leave it wide open. So go ahead and hit open. Alright, now, here's where we start assigning the cards. You're going to change it to green-red, and a green-red configuration means the network comes in from the internet and the network goes out to the rest of your network. Then you're going to do a card assignment. Now, because this is a virtual machine and all the cards are the same, you're fine with this particular step, but what this card assignment normally does is, let's say you have an Intel card and you have a Netgear card as far as your network cards, and you want to set one for outside the network and one for inside the network. Here's where you would make that selection if you have like an actual computer. So you hit OK. It said, oh hey, we found this network card. No big deal. Oh hey, here's the other network card that wasn't chosen. I'm going to assign it to red. No big deal. Successfully allocated. Now, this is your address settings. You want to do green. You want to hit OK. Now, in this setting, this is going to be the address that your internal network is going to see. So we're going to make that 35. So 192.168.35.1. So everybody who's like your Roku box, your PlayStation 4, your smart TVs, this is the address that they're going to hit internally to get out to the internet. Hit OK here. Now your red address, this is going to be the IP address of the machine, the side of the machine that's actually on the router. Let's see, 2.5. So my router is 192.168.11.1. So to put it on the same subnet as the router, you have to divot the same thing. So yours is probably going to be 192.168.1.1. So you want to put something like 1.11 or 1.15 on that subnet, and then making the other one a 35, which is a different subnet entirely. It's basically separating the network virtually. Okay? It's very simple to understand. And then hit OK, and you're done. Now, you want to set DNS and gateway settings. I'm going to use Google for DNS, 8.8.8.8, and secondary, 8.8.4.4. Gateway, 192.168.11. What was it? 1, correct. Because the gateway is going to be your router. It is what you're telling the machine right now is that the 35 address subnet is going to be where all my TVs and everything's going to be coming through, and the 11 subnet is where the internet is. And it's going to say, okay, anything coming from the 35 will flow through me out the 11.1, which is the router, and out to the rest of the world. So that's the purpose of setting this up. Hit OK, and you're done. Now, in this particular section, if you were using this as a DHCP server, then that's when you would set the DHCP configurations and everything, but we're not doing any of that, so you just want to hit finished. Now, I can't stress this enough. You're going to have to enter two types of passwords. One is the administration password for the web version of SmoothWall, and one is the administration password for the command line version. You want to make those passwords the same because you don't want to have to try to remember two passwords. So I'm going to put my password in here. Okay. And then the next one is for your command line access. Now, for your web access, it's going to be admin, but for your command line access, it's going to be root is the username. Okay, click OK. It's going to reboot. As you can see, it's loading pretty quick with only 512 of memory. Like I said, you don't need much to get this stuff running. And there you go. SmoothWall's up and running. So let's test it out. There you go. Ping yahoo.com, and it comes back, which means the SmoothWall is online and it can be you can get to it, no issues at all. So we'll go ahead and stick a pin in it right now. We'll go to the next section, and when we move on to the next section, I'll show you how to add the content filter stuff that you're going to be using on the SmoothWall.